Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central. Today myself and Miska sat down to sort of discuss a multitude of big topics that we haven't really spoken about in quite some time. We'll be talking about who we think Hero 31 is going to be, and also Blizzard's new summer schedule, how that leads to BlizzCon, future Overwatch updates, and of course talking about Overwatch 2, and whether Overwatch the PvP game would go free to play. A lot of big hard hitting topics. If you do have any questions that you want to ask us in future videos like this, then let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then do like it, and enjoy. I kind of want to talk about Hero 31 a little bit because we can expect him any day, like he's due, like a pregnancy, just Mauga ready to sort of come into the world. But that's the thing, I don't think it is going to be Mauga anymore. Like when the short story came out, I was like 100% like did this grant his abilities. Andal Tsang, who designed Moira, is designing this character for like a comic, so you know Blizzard aren't just going to waste money there. So I was just like, it's obviously here, but now I'm not too sure just because there's been like 2 or 3 weeks since then that now I feel like it was just a big red herring. But it's weird how Blizzard are making all of these characters and, you know, adding them into the story like Sojourn, Echo, Mauga, Maximilian, that Predator bot from Storm Rising. Who do you think is going to be Hero 13? Because I definitely don't think it's Mauga anymore. I think that's just a massive red herring.
Honestly, I don't think it's anyone we've seen. Right, like as in physics.
Is it going to be like another Baptiste, just somebody that's like out of the
more
blue?
like okay. So can you think of a character right now with heroes that we had like fully physically seen as their hero before we like got them into the game? Because there's not a lot of them.
Brigitte?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, but we hadn't really seen her with the shield and stuff, right? Like as proper. I mean, Anna's like the closest I can think of, but we hadn't really seen her in her gear. You know, we didn't really know who she was either. So there was still
what she did.
There was still a bit of like build up there at least. But you know, with most characters, we don't really get to see them at all before they are heroes. And I think it's to, you know, Blizzard want to add to that whole, oh, look at the new hero, wow, they look fantastic. You know, it's like a new character. Like, so it's not someone you know from having previously seen them. So if it is Mauga, I think it's gonna go through like a major transformation of some sort, like, you know, Widow brainwashing style transformation. That's sort of like, you know, extreme of a change. Or
like Darth Vader sort of.
Yeah, I don't know, like who knows, maybe he turns into that Talon Predator dude. Ooh, that could be interesting, you know.
Oh my god, have we just like stumbled onto like the worst theory when it's like Mauga
I just realized how it doesn't make sense too, because Storm Rising is like forever ago.
Yeah, exactly. That was my
point. Okay, I didn't realize shit. Yeah, I forgot that. Oh well, I don't know. Do we actually know that the last scene in Storm Rising is forever ago as well?
No, I think it was like before Doomfist gets captured though by Winston.
Okay, it's probably not the connection, but I would love for that to be the connection. That would have been amazing, right? If that was the setup. If it was Mauga turns into that dude and we get like a full reveal of what that Talon dude looks like today. And Baptiste and that guy have this like really, you know, weird relationship where they kind of knew each other in the past and they kind of hate each other, but they also kind of get along. I mean, I would love for that to be a thing. Personally, right now though, I don't think we've seen the next character. I think it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be related to Mauga in some way, but I don't think we've physically seen the next hero because we don't really, like, judging from the track record, we don't get to see them.
We kind of noted the fact that if this was a normal summer schedule, we would know who that is by now. Yeah. You know, it was the end of June that we got tonight. Wrecking Ball.
Maybe tomorrow.
Could be any time this week. Could be literally any time. But why is Blizzard changing their summer schedule? We know that they are doing it and have said, but they haven't really gone over why Blizzard aren't going to Gamescom and stuff like that. Granted, that's bigger than Overwatch. That's Hearthstone, World of Warcraft, all of these games that don't have really new content to show, but for Overwatch, are we expecting a much quieter summer or more stuff that isn't part of the schedule?
So normally they do a map for Gamescom, right? Like that's the whole thing. They do an animated short and they do a map. So if we assume that they don't do either of those things because of Gamescom, that's one option. I would say is that, or maybe was on the table at least. But either way, then they would put that effort of working on a map and working on a short probably towards whatever it is they want to like reveal later on, right? Like say that at BlizzCon they actually have some more major thing, they could put it towards that. Another option could just be that, you know, they're just not going to Gamescom and they're just gonna reveal a map separately but save the animated short, or do them a little bit, you know, not like on the same day or whatever, like.
Or just do something else, like go to Korea, like.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's hard to say, really. I'd be surprised though if they keep the normal, you know, a map and a short on the same day type of reveal thing. That would feel a bit weird to me. But I mean, yeah, who knows? They have a lot of options, that's for sure.
Do you feel like they're going quiet because there's going to be big announcements for Overwatch specifically? I don't mean the idea of Overwatch 2, but like the game that will play in PvP. Could you see big changes coming to that for BlizzCon, or do you feel like it's...
I don't know. I mean, I'd love to, right? But I feel like I've been speculating about that every year because they always build things up and then they... Yeah, well, not even disappoint. It's just something else every time, right? Like, with a hero, it's like, oh, here's this interesting character and this interesting story, and it's something completely different. Oh, here's this cool lore thing, and never mind, we're just gonna go back 10 years ago before the recall happened or whatever, and talk about how some hero got their gear or whatever, like...
Yeah, and I think they're making a good effort to try and fix that,
hopefully,
but
yeah.
I feel like that's the kind of thing, like going into... I wanted to talk a bit more about the Overwatch 2 game, which of course isn't Overwatch 2, but another Overwatch game that's potentially PvE based and stuff. There's still a lot of misinformation coming out about that, of just being like, oh, it's going to be another PvP game, or it's going to be an expansion.
I really like to call it, like I did it in my video explaining like Overwatch 2, just kind of going like, here's what it's not, rather than, you know, oh, it's a sequel, like, you know, it doesn't have to be, just clearing that up. I called it Omni Crisis, and I still really like to call it that, because it's been described as a Left 4 Dead game, which, I mean, okay, very hard to say. Like, if someone says that, it's not just gonna be a Left 4 Dead clone. Blizzard don't do that. That's not, like, they try to do their own spin on it.
I mean, Overwatch and TF2 is a bit, like, I wouldn't say it's a clone, but it's very close to just... They're very good at taking a format and moving with it.
They do they do also have like a lot of their own stuff in there. A lot of Blizzard trademark sort of things to that. And I think that's the thing. Like, nobody... Okay, if it was like a Left 4 Dead thing, like, people aren't making like Left 4 Dead style games that are like huge games anymore, right? Like, it's not, you know, like if Valve thought that, like, you know, another Left 4 Dead game would have sold great like a year ago, 2 years ago, they would have made that. They would have put that stuff out then.
It probably is made, right? It's just...
Yeah, but if it was like a straight clone of like Left 4 Dead 2, right? I don't see Blizzard going, oh, you know what the gaming landscape needs right now? Left 4 Dead 2 clone, that's right. Throw it out, get the Overwatch characters in there. Like, I don't see that happening. But
they're very good at taking old ideas into the, like, you know, they took a class-based shooter, which nobody was really doing for a long while, and I think most importantly turned it into a game as a service. I know people hate that word, but in regards to that, I think Overwatch does a pretty good job, you know, like free updates, constant stuff.
A live game.
So whatever this game is, it has to be that, right? Like, that's kind of the thing.
I want to say that, like, one thing I think is very important that a lot of people are forgetting. Would you call the current Overwatch missions Left 4 Dead style missions? Like the current PvE missions? Because I wouldn't. I wouldn't really call it Left 4 Dead. I can see how someone would go like, oh, it's a little bit like Left 4 Dead, a 4-player co-op PvE thing, you go through a level. Okay, I get that. But if that's the only, like, likeness you have with the Overwatch 2 to Left 4 Dead, then it's not really a Left 4 Dead game, you know? It's a co-op 4-player PvE game.
So how does Left 4 Dead set itself aside from what you just described? What would make a Left 4 Dead game? Just real quick.
I mean, I would say it has more to do with, like, you know, things like, you know, loadout, play style, and, you know, general sort of setting. Like Left 4... Okay, so Overwatch tries to do it way more as like you're going through a level and there's kind of a bit of a story being told as you're doing it, right? Whilst Left 4 Dead, sometimes it's just like, here's a buttload of zombies, get out.
Get from A to B, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I can definitely see the likeness there that's drawn between Left 4 Dead and Overwatch from like a Blizzard developer, if it's like just the safe room connection between the PvE missions. But even then, Overwatch has like, or Overwatch 2 or Omni Crisis, whatever you want to call it, it has so much potential to set itself apart and do its own thing as well with that. Now, I would say that it makes way more sense to, you know, try to do something that's a little bit more like Destiny, a little bit more like, maybe not Borderlands, I'm not sure.
See, I'd say Borderlands. Like, I think not in the sense of it being a looter shooter or MMO light, I think that's up in the air, but I would prefer to have characters like in Borderlands that you played that are, actual characters with backstory and lore that have class archetypes and talent trees that you can go down, as opposed to being, you are a guardian, you are a person amongst hundreds of thousands of other players that is somehow the savior of the universe. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather play as, that might be why we're getting more characters, like Echo and Sojourn and
for sure.
Maybe more people in Talon that you could just pick between. All right, I'm gonna have a build as Echo, who is like this supporty kind of character that you can run in these Left 4 Dead-esque missions. That to me would be really cool. But I guess most importantly that I really don't think that this is like an expansion that you will play in Overwatch, like in the arcade.
No.
Because I think that Blizzard will want to have this as a fully fledged $60 game, which I've seen some people been like, well, I'm not going to buy it, but I understand if you don't like that kind of game, but, I'm not against buying a new Blizzard game, you know what I mean? I know some people don't always have the money, but, I'm okay to pay $60 for a brand new Overwatch
There's over like 40 million Overwatch players though, right? I'm pretty sure, like a total people that, or accounts, or like games that are associated with a unique account. Yeah, something like that. Out of all of those, I could totally see a lot of players that have stopped playing or don't play as much anymore because maybe they weren't big PvP type of, players, or like, they didn't really play those types of games a lot. And if they get this,
the game would scare people out.
Yeah, exactly. And then now they come back for maybe seasonal events, play PvE missions and think they're cool. Even if they just follow the lore a bit and don't play loads, then a game like this is very appealing to that audience too. I think they could totally make it work. Like, it's Blizzard. That's this kind of the sort of stuff they do at the end of the day. Like, that's
what Overwatch was to begin with. It was like a fully fledged MMO with a universe and somewhat of a plan. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's like, people like that universe, we want more of it, and
For sure, I mean, it makes so much sense, and that's the thing, like, if you look at the market right now, what are the big releases? You got like The Division 2,
Destiny, Borderlands.
Destiny expansions, Borderlands super hype.
Anthem.
Yeah, I mean, it's like even the hype that Anthem got, like, for what it could have been, if there's so much like that, the sort of 4-player PvE kinda MMO, but not really looter, but also like
live update, game as a service, sometimes free, sometimes with a store.
Yeah, but also very like mission-based gameplay. Like, it's very 4 players PvE mission-based co-op gameplay. Like, that's that applies to all
like
those
if we
games.
look at Destiny, I think the reason why those games do so successful is that you can play really casually and still have the element of you have gone into game and made progress, which was the problem with Anthem, is like you could put hundreds of hours in an endgame and you'd make no progress, and Division 2 is suffering from that.
Yeah, for sure.
We mentioned sort of free-to-play games. People are saying that, like, especially if this new Overwatch universe game comes out, do you think that Overwatch, the PvP game, would go free-to-play? Because I'm leaning no.
So, we made a couple videos recently. I think, I'm pretty sure we both made one that at least mentioned it. The whole thing with, like, mentioning Blizzard earnings calls, talking about Overwatch, and also reports elsewhere of just, like, in-game net bookings or, like, loot boxes in general in Overwatch selling worse and worse over time, which makes sense. But judging from the fact that, Overwatch has gone down in pricing already, and there's still kind of, like, struggling to get new players that come in and buy loot boxes and such, assuming that that's the case, judging from the reports and rumors and articles that we've seen, then it doesn't really make a lot of sense to make the game free to play on top of that. Like, if they do that, they'd have to transition into it like over time, make it free to play, but also add something more that they could charge for in game. Because otherwise, like, how are they gonna keep that alive long term? It just doesn't make sense from like a product development perspective at all. Like, oh, we got this product where people are chipping in money over time through loot boxes, but they're doing it less and less over time. Let's also remove our, entire like pay to play selling point of like, paying $20 for entry at first. At this point, loot boxes are getting a worse and worse reputation, and
might not even be a thing anymore. Like, soon.
Yeah, some people don't even care about skins in games, right? Like, it's I don't see loot boxes funding the entirety of Overwatch. Like, that seems very unlikely to me. I mean, at least right now. They could transition into it over time, though. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I think they'd have to make like a new Fortnite-esque store before they do anything like that, or even like have a season pass or something, like to...
Yeah, and that's something they could do in the next Overwatch universe.
Yeah, and I think they'd be stupid not to. Like,
that's why making a new game that has another type of monetization model and tapping into the current Overwatch audience makes so much more sense, especially if that game fills another niche than the PvP competitive multiplayer shooter. Like PvE co-op, like MMO style shooter with loot and other things that you can buy. Awesome. Like, I'm sure people would be down to spend their money there. Yeah.
RPG elements, yeah. I that's what I'm hoping for. But you could also let us know in the comments what you're hoping for with Hero 31, Overwatch 2, Overwatch going free to play. And if you have any questions, mostly I think this is just stuff that we want to ask each other because we talk like this anyway. Like every day we have like 20-minute discussions on various things that we figured we'd record it and just have a bit more of a, you know, sitting down with you whilst you're probably eating vegan food on the docks.
Vegan food? Do you think we have a big vegan audience?
Maybe, I don't know. Pull it. Roll Q and veganism. Let's see how it goes.
Post a picture of your lunch in the comments.
Thanks for watching.
Right.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.